let's start the day off this way. Pandering for Pennies with Rollen Green. It turns out there's all kinds of stuff everyone's talking about that slam it into the title so they can collect a little, something on it as well. But I thought, I've watched reviews. I've heard. I actually heard she knocked it out of the park as Snow White. That part was good. Did very well. Other things could have cost it any glory it may have achieved. Now I'm not gonna see it. I'm on the side that was picking it apart before it hit. But I thought this was, and I watched about 3 minutes, and I pushed stop, and I'm like, hey, let's start the morning out with this. I'm a fan. Thomas Sowell is it? The economist, the ex-socialist turned economist. I follow one of the channels puts up like a lot of his quotes. A quote channel, and it's well, I thought it would be. This was the takeaway I thought I would share. I had a lot of fun listening to crazy reviews and heard my jokes on it. But how about the High Road once?
Oh, the original cartoon came out in 1937, and very evidently so. There's a big focus on her love story with a guy who literally stalks her.
Yeah.
Weird.
Super weird.
So we didn't do that this time.
There was a time when movies were made for audiences. Today, they are made to lecture them. The controversy over Snow White is not just about one film. It is about a larger pattern, a pattern of Hollywood elites forcing their ideological fantasies onto the public while ignoring economic reality, historical truth, and the free market. And as always, the facts are not on their side. Hollywood executives operate under a curious delusion that they can produce any kind of garbage, slap a well-known brand on it, inject it with ideological messaging, and expect the public to pay for their own indoctrination.
Okay, so the channel, first and foremost, old Rollen here, I reference the Futurama quite often, and there's a, I can't remember if it was one of the movies when it had been canceled, but they were making movies still, but the Zoidbergs group of people come to Earth, and basically they found, like, how to oppress a whole planet on pennies on the dollar. I always thought that was a nice little wink to you pay for your own indoctrination. As a ex-D&D player, we all have something to complain about because of the usurpation of our beloved tabletop games, at least that one in particular. And I personally ranted about the destruction of franchises for the message, which other people deliver and talk about in a much funnier way than me, but it's accurate. Yeah.
And expect the public to pay for their own indoctrination. But the free market has something to say about that. Time and again, movies with heavy-handed messaging and forced diversity quotas have flopped at the box office. The Marvels, Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny, Lightyear, all multi-million-dollar projects that ignored audience preferences and suffered financially because of it. The upcoming Snow White remake is no different. Its lead actress, Rachel Zegler, publicly mocked the original film, dismissed its storytelling as weird, and scoffed at the idea of a prince rescuing Snow White. One has to wonder, why take the job if you despise the role? Imagine a chef advertising his new restaurant by insulting the cuisine. But in the mind of the anointed...
All right, he got me there. I have a hard time. I have a hard time taking credit for taking anything out of a freezer and applying proper timing to it. So I wouldn't say I insult what I do, but I definitely try to push people to the You know, did I do more than one step? I'm like, I made a cheese sauce, and I'm like, there's 7 ingredients in there. I made it. I didn't open a can. Uh, every item that I just open a can for, I don't take credit for. Give credit to the corporation who invented it and can pass it off as palatable. But I digress. I'm a unique one. I the cook who doesn't like to cook.
Imagine a chef advertising his new restaurant by insulting the cuisine. But in the mind of the anointed Hollywood self-declared intellectuals, the audience does not matter. They assume their ideology is infallible and that failure is always someone else's fault. When a woke film fails, they blame the audience, accusing them of bigotry for not supporting it. When a classic film succeeds, they dismiss the audience's tastes as outdated and in need of correction. The arrogance is astonishing.
Yeah, well, that's funny. I don't know. Yeah, because I'm not even sure I might only got a couple minutes in. Oh, shoot. Oh, yeah. The classic archetypes. Now, one side of the channel would talk about princess programming as a negative influence on our girls, dependent on a fantasy. But then when you look at the archetype, how important it is for something that I believe is actively being destroyed, the protector, provider, nurturer, binder, that perfect package that it can be pushed but most times you let nature take its course and it works out that way. Yeah, I wouldn't say prince per se. I believe that's more of an idea that goes back to a time of the have and have nots. And I think we're past that competency, incompetency. I think the prince is that who can provide, take care, slay the dragons metaphorically at the gate. You would not really look for the cowering in the corner, mommy save me from the monsters type. It doesn't actually create anything of not taken away for the cowards of the world. You get to be you. You just probably don't get the princess. I'm just saying.
As outdated and in need of correction.
Yeah, and then I don't think that needs correction. I think it's the framework for the most success humanity has ever had. Yeah, that pair bonding, creating children, purpose of keeping it all together, which seems to be one of the things that's trying to be destroyed. That's ballsy, ballsy.
The arrogance is astonishing.
Oh,
but the free market operates independently of elite opinions. No matter how much moral grandstanding takes place in press interviews, money talks. And the money is walking away from Hollywood's social experiments. The irony is that these studios are not even following their own supposed principles. If diversity was truly about merit, why does it only apply selectively? Would Hollywood be comfortable race-swapping Malcolm X or the Black Panther?
Well, no, this is that whole, why is it okay for China to stay Chinese, but Poland can't stay Polish? We're not allowed because there's a certain structure on the planet that supposedly has to be destroyed, even though, as far as I can tell, family, children, and some bit of purpose appears to even exist in oppressed places. I mean, it turns out it's weird how that's like the family unit is being attacked so ferociously. It's weird to me. And then things we'll get to eventually, but yeah, I just saw a horrible meme, if you will, or statement about if um, 70, what is it? I can't remember. You could pick your group. If 70 of this group had a atrocity happen to them, it would be mainstream news. If this group over here had 70 individuals, an atrocity happened to them, it'd be front page news. This group, who believes in something the planet doesn't address and he doesn't like anymore, just had 70 people had an atrocity committed to them. No news at all. And it's funny how, and I think the crime is the crime, the atrocities are the atrocities. Shine a light on all sides of it. I don't really want to pick and choose who my faves are. Right? That's that, selectively going, oh, well, it's my cause that matters. Oosh, my cause is probably a nuanced discussion with both sides involved having a part in the ordeal. I mean, I've got to believe that's true. I've never seen a one-sided anything like the mob claims. It's always more complicated.
Selectively. Would Hollywood be comfortable race swapping Malcolm X or the Black Panther? The inconsistency betrays their.
Well, let's be honest. If it doesn't come up in here, they just did that really bad one in England. They took actual. Unfortunately, it looked like Netflix took actual migrant crime and then race swapped it and said no, that was right wing indoctrination in the movie. Then they pulled the based on a true story thing, right? So they slapped that. Here, it's the Fargo guys explain that. How Fargo gets based on a true story is, yep, a kidnapping has taken place in Minnesota. It's close enough to lie to the viewer. It's interesting, I think.
Race swapping Malcolm X or the Black Panther? The inconsistency betrays their real motive, not diversity, but control. And control, once exposed, eventually loses its grip. If this were simply a case of Hollywood making bad films, the problem would be self-correcting. But there is something far more insidious at play. Hollywood no longer.
Yeah, the bad films just moved to like instant release because it turns out we've been making bad and B films forever. You know, they make a whole genre of movies just so a director can get a girl to take her top off. But it's not porn. It's usually just a stupid fucking movie, excuse me, but a really bad movie with lots of toplessness in it. It's an entire genre of film. There's a whole group. That's all they want to do. God, I hated making movies. I loved making movies, but I hated making movies. Because you end up working with the individuals. That's it. That's all I could think about. And I was like, isn't it telling a kick-ass story? Maybe saying something they don't realize they're hearing, but they're hearing it anyways. No, let's show titties.
Longer sees itself as an entertainment industry. It sees itself as an ideological weapon. In The Vision of the Anointed, I explain how elites impose their utopian visions on society, dismissing dissent as ignorance or bigotry. Hollywood follows this playbook religiously. Create a problem where none exists. Claim that classic movies are problematic and must be rewritten. Present themselves as saviors, declare that they are fixing.
Isn't that the Hegelian dialect? I'm just saying, in entertainment form, isn't that it? Create it all out of the air so they can deliver you from their created evil.
Outdated norms through representation. Demonize opposition. Label any critics as regressive or intolerant.
Now, this is why this gentleman, I believe, is the number one tip tops for me, and 100% support. Down in the description is a link to the original. If this take on things is up your alley, I highly recommend giving Thomas a listen. I shouldn't even speak with familiarity. I've just listened to so many pieces that we're in the part where his socialist indoctrination training and, belief, wholehearted belief, he left that all behind, but was an anti-capitalist. And when when he discusses stuff, he's in that let's get rid of that utopian view. I'm right, you're wrong, and my little ray of sunshine's gonna fix the world. It's always been, right? That's like advertising. It's always been the bullshit shine on the story, and the rotten apple underneath is what we should be focusing on always.
Demonize opposition, label any critics as regressive or intolerant. Notice that nowhere in this sequence does the audience's actual preferences enter the equation. Their goal is not to entertain, it is to reshape cultural narratives under the guise of progress. Take the constant race swapping of beloved characters. The argument is that it provides representation, but in practice...
And we'll just double down right there. Go down the redheads in comics, cartoons, and entertainment being swapped out for... We're just going to go with other. Just other. And I would, all soulless ginger jokes aside, that's a damn shame. Especially such a yeah, it's a damn shame.
Race swapping of beloved characters. The argument is that it provides representation, but in practice, it functions as a form of cultural vandalism, erasing original stories to promote ideology.
Now I'm in the middle of a, going down the archaeological rabbit holes. And to me, this echoes and resonates with our entire timeline is just a manufactured load of BS to serve the powers that be. And then that ties to the tinfoil hat. There's a group that wants to control the whole shit show. Why? Because it's so much more complicated than they told us. This timeline is, helps control the out of control breeding worthless eaters who somehow made a go of it without their constant handouts. Always groups fracturing from the whole to make their own way of it. So I gotta believe the control system long failed. They probably wouldn't have to off a quarter of the planet or 2/3 of the planet if they didn't lose control. So it was interesting to me. This is good.
As a form of cultural vandalism, erasing original stories to promote ideological quotas. Consider what this means in the long term. Storytelling is no longer about creativity but political approval. Casting is no longer about merit but about checking demographic boxes. Entertainment is no longer a choice but a moral obligation. You must support it or else you are labeled the enemy. This is not about inclusion. It is about rewriting cultural norms without public consent. And the market is rejecting it.
And then right there, I would think Erica and the amoebas and her community posts, if you filter that through what was being said right here, you can understand that what it is without the message and a pre-approved banter that, let's say, YouTube would like to promote, you get pushed to the back of the pile because now they just have an algorithm figuring it out. Oh, was that one word problematic? To hell with context. So I see YouTube as wanting to control speech and ideas. And that's why reach is as limited as it is. Because sometimes there's some entertainment. I got to believe, I do in my heart, that there was many more available, but they just don't get the opportunity to find out. Because the platform rejects, let's just say, looking at it from all sides,
And the market is rejecting it. This Hollywood tendency to rewrite history is nothing new. I have spoken before about Roots, the famous miniseries on slavery. The creator of the show, Alex Haley, openly admitted that he altered history in order to create a myth for black audiences. Now, what exactly does a myth accomplish? It replaces facts with narratives. It fuels grievances instead of understanding. Hollywood has not changed. Today, they apply the same strategy, not just with history, but with classic stories that have stood the test of time. And the reasoning is always the same. People need new myths, but truth does not care about Hollywood's emotional need. A civilization that distorts history is not advancing, it is regressing. And when even fairy tales are rewritten to fit an ideological agenda, we should ask, what else is being rewritten? One of the great failures of modern multiculturalism is its rejection of assimilation, the process by which different cultures blend into a shared identity rather than remaining separate factions. In the past, immigrant groups who thrived in America, the Irish, the Jews, the Chinese, did so by prioritizing economic contribution and cultural integration, not by demanding constant validation. They focused on merit and opportunity, not grievance. But today, Hollywood and academia teach the opposite. They push an identity-based approach, encouraging people to define themselves by race, gender, and victimhood rather than by merit and responsibility.
Wait, how long is college? Was that 4 to 6 years of struggle sessions? Yeah, no wonder they pass it on in their workplace. Because they had it just sapped out of them for years. You know, and then I can't imagine trying to, come of age, learn to party, live your life, socialize, while being indoctrinated into political extremity, political extremist groups. That's kind of how I see college now. Because the work would be different if we were producing people who actually were problem solving and making things better. But it's like you can't even get educated people to teach their kids to work hard anymore. It's insane. Oh.
This mindset is poisonous. It fosters resentment instead of ambition. And Hollywood reinforces it by teaching audiences to expect political messaging in every aspect of entertainment. If movies about fictional princesses cannot exist without racial politics, what does that say about our society? Hollywood's ideological arrogance will be its...
Well, to be fair, what it really says is we are so unable to write original stories that we only take the free market controlled capitalism approach of milking a franchise for everything it's worth. Now, if we had a little more open artistic freedom, I'm guessing there would be 15 different, like comic books, 15 different characters with invisibility and super strength. Or this, that, or the other. There would be, and then the most well-created, worth watching, entertaining versions of these characters would win out. But we don't. We don't allow new stories. We have to do this to control franchises because it turns out the same group has to keep getting the same payday over and over and over. And I do believe that. Because I don't think it's a free market. I think it's a a contract system that's fully corrupted. We'll go with that.
Racial politics. What does that say about our society? Hollywood's ideological arrogance will be its downfall. Just as socialist economies collapse under their own weight, so too will an entertainment industry that ignores the basic principles of supply and demand. The audience is not obligated to fund ideological projects. For decades, great movies succeeded because they appealed to universal human truths: love, struggle, heroism, perseverance. These themes transcend race, gender, and politics.
Yeah, no, let's go back, because that's the arc. They're universal truths, right? There are things that feed us at a level beyond our petty differences. And that's the storytelling that actually works the most, right? From spoken word to a Hollywood blockbuster. There are certain tales that hit us down deep inside go back, right? It goes back in history, hits us in all like in the DNA. Just saying, this is so true.
So too will an entertainment industry that ignores the basic principles of supply and demand. The audience is not obligated to fund ideological projects. For decades, great movies succeeded because they appealed to universal human truths: love, struggle, heroism, perseverance. These themes transcend race, gender, and politics. But Hollywood has abandoned storytelling in favor of sermons. The problem with the woke movement is not just that it is divisive. It is boring. No one goes to the movies to be lectured. They go to be entertained. And as long as Hollywood insists on insulting its audience, rewriting beloved stories, and prioritizing ideology over quality, its decline will only accelerate. Because the free market does not care about virtue signaling. It does not care about activist narrative. It cares about what sells. And no amount of Hollywood arrogance will change that.
Cast a guy in the movie, Andrew Burnap, great dude. All of Andrew's scenes could get cut. Who knows? It's Hollywood, baby. It's Hollywood, baby.
Now, if you enjoyed and you're interested, like I said, there's a link down in the description to the original. Hunter is very excited. He's got some spring fever in the house, and I had to shut it up because he's getting a little excited. Brutal truth about Snow White disaster. Thomas Sowell today, and I think his take on it is legit, so I thought that's how we would discuss it. If you're interested, well, that's what it was about. Blah blah blah. I didn't slap it in the title because I don't like doing that. I like, otherwise, I'm guilty of the same thing everybody else is guilty of, chasing the same stinking story, the same opinions, the same jokes. Like I said, I heard she actually did a fine job, and that's from like Critical Drinker and shit. So if one of the takeaways isn't there are positive parts to it all, well then you're probably just a hater, and thank God we only got a small percentile of them. But a hater's gonna hate. They do what they do. It appears that the deeper side of it all is what's in play here, not her back hair, which was the stupidest argument I think people made. But yeah, the audience is a bunch of goofballs sometimes, looking for constant validation because they want to hear what they want to hear when they want to hear it. It's a sad truth. Later.